Have you ever looked at someone you love and felt like you were staring at a stranger? That moment when your gut whispers something's off, but your brain keeps making excuses? That was me. Steve Hammond, 42, suburban dad, casual weekend golfer, and husband to Kate for the last 11 years. And up until last month, I thought we were in a rough patch. What I didn't know was that the patch wasn't rough, it was rotten. And I was standing on it, sinking in. Our story didn't start with fireworks. It started in a supermarket. Kate dropped a jar of pasta sauce. I reached out to help. She laughed. I made a dumb pun about red flags, ironic now, and the rest was history. We had a normal life. Mortgage, arguments about dishwasher loading methods, an aging golden retriever named Max, and a shared love for Sunday morning pancakes. Nothing dramatic. No Instagram-worthy moments. Just quiet consistency. But then, things changed. It started small. She stopped texting during the day. No more love you or can't wait for dinner messages. Just silence. Our kisses turned into cheek brushes. Our conversations became logistics. Can you pick up Max from the vet? What time is the grocery delivery? And then came the Thursday. She went out for drinks with her coworkers. That night, she came home late, too late. Max barked once and went back to bed, but I stayed on the couch pretending to watch reruns of The Office. She came in smelling like perfume I didn't recognize and had that odd mix of guilt and tired in her voice. Sorry, babe. Got caught up in a conversation with Tara about her divorce. It was a reasonable excuse. Except, Tara had moved to Denver 2 months ago. I didn't say anything, just nodded and kissed her on the cheek. Then I stared at the back of her head as she walked into the bedroom, wondering if I was losing it. I convinced myself it was a one-off. Stress, deadlines, whatever. But the signs piled up. There were 3 phone calls in the span of 2 weeks where someone hung up the moment I answered. Her laughter became selective, only heard through the walls while she was on the phone. She started using makeup she hadn't touched in years. She began dressing up for work-from-home Zoom calls, full-on foundation, lipstick, even perfume. I told myself I was paranoid. Midlife insecurities. Maybe I was just being dramatic. So, I did what any emotionally constipated man in his 40s would do. I shut down. I went quiet. For the next 2 weeks, Kate lived with a version of me that spoke in grunts. If she asked me to pass the salt, I got up and grabbed it myself. If she asked how my day was, I handed her the local newspaper with the headlines circled. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just stopped engaging. No, I love you. No idle chat. No shoulder squeezes during dinner. She noticed. At first, she brushed it off. Then she started overcompensating. Kisses in the morning. Hugging me while I read the paper. Random attempts at spontaneous intimacy. One night, she leaned over the table, smiled, and whispered, "Come on, Steve. I need something else right now." She led me back to our bedroom, hands warm, eyes unreadable. We connected, but not really. It felt mechanical, forced. She snuggled afterward, humming softly, and I lay there wondering if she missed him while I was inside her. In the morning, she snapped. "Can't you say anything?" she yelled during breakfast. "Don't you have anything to say to me?" I looked at her for a long moment, then said, "I assumed you didn't want that." She exploded, accused me of becoming a stranger, of being silent, cold, robotic. Said she married a man, not a statue. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and ask, "Who are you?" But all I said was, "Steve, your behavior of silence and isolation has crossed all boundaries." She snapped, her voice shaking with frustration. Later that night, she stormed off mid-conversation. The next few days, we tiptoed around each other. But her behavior changed. Her moods grew unstable. She came home looking haunted, distracted. And when I asked if she was okay, she just said, "Work's been rough." I wanted to believe that. I really did. But a few days later, my suspicion turned into fact. And that's when everything truly began to unravel. The morning everything changed started like any other. I got up before Kate, let Max out, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table flipping through the news on my phone while trying to ignore the dull ache behind my eyes from another sleepless night. Kate came down about half an hour later wearing one of her more polished outfits. Nothing fancy, but definitely not what you throw on when you're just working from home. She had on those gray slacks that hugged her a little tighter and a soft white blouse I hadn't seen in months. She smelled like that perfume I used to love when we first dated, the one she said she stopped using because it gave her headaches. I didn't say a word. She poured herself some coffee, scrolled through her phone, then said she had a long day of meetings and probably wouldn't be back until late. I nodded. She leaned down, kissed the top of my head, and walked out the door like it was any other day. I sat there for a good 10 minutes after the door closed, just staring at the spot she had stood. I wasn't even thinking anymore. I was just letting the silence sink into me. Then I grabbed my keys and decided I couldn't keep pretending I was okay. I drove straight to my friend Ernie's office. Ernie used to work private security, but over the years, he started doing a little private investigation stuff on the side. He owed me a favor, and for once, I was cashing in. He didn't ask a lot of questions. Just said, "You want proof?" I nodded. "Then give me 2 weeks." For those 2 weeks, I acted normal. I didn't snoop. I didn't ask questions. I didn't track her phone or look through her messages. I didn't want to be the kind of guy who did that. If she was doing something, I'd get the truth soon enough, and if I was wrong, then at least I'd have peace of mind. The day Ernie called, it was a Wednesday. He told me to come by during lunch. I didn't ask what he had. I just showed up. His office was the same as always. Dim, cluttered, smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet. He handed me a plain white envelope and said, "It's all in there. Photos, dates, addresses. I've seen enough of this crap to know when someone's not just being friendly." I didn't open it right away. I just held it, like it was burning through my fingers. "So?" I asked. "It's real." Ernie looked at me the way someone looks at a dog right before telling it the vet appointment isn't going to end well. "Yes, Steve. I'm sorry, but she's not being subtle about it. Same guy. Daytime visits. She drives to his place a few times a week. Same building, 2nd floor. They're not just talking." That hit harder than I expected. Even though I was already sure deep down, hearing someone else say it out loud made it all real. I nodded, thanked him, and walked out without saying much more. I sat in my car for a long time, gripping the envelope like it was going to fall apart if I let go. I didn't want to open it, but I also couldn't drive home with it unopened. So I did it there, in the parking lot, engine off, the world around me moving on like nothing had changed. The pictures weren't blurry or hard to understand. They were sharp, clear, well-timed. Her walking up to the guy's apartment. Her leaving 2 hours later. One photo showed him opening the door for her, his hand on her lower back. Another had her smiling up at him, laughing. That one hurt more than the others for some reason. That smile used to be mine. There was a log too. Dates and times. Every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon for the last 3 weeks. One Sunday morning. That one really stung. She had told me she was going for a walk to clear her head. I had actually offered to come with her. She said she needed to be alone. The guy's name was in the report too. I didn't recognize it. Just some guy. Not a friend of mine. Not someone from work. Not even someone from her social media. Just a guy. That made it worse somehow. She had a whole other part of her life I knew nothing about. A part where I didn't exist. I didn't go home right away. I drove around aimlessly, trying to figure out what to feel. I wasn't crying. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't punching the steering wheel like in those dramatic movie scenes. I was just numb. Like someone turned the volume down on my emotions, and everything sounded far away. I tried to remember the last time we really talked. Like really, deeply talked, and I couldn't. I remembered the way her eyes used to light up when we watched dumb reality shows together. The way she used to laugh when Max would bark in his sleep. I remembered our last vacation, 2 summers ago, when we both got sunburned and spent the evening rubbing aloe on each other and joking about being lobsters. I wondered when that part of our lives disappeared, and if she even missed it. When I finally pulled into the driveway that night, the house looked the same. The porch light was on, Max was sitting by the window, tail wagging, waiting for me like always. But everything felt different. I had the proof. I had the truth. And now the question was what the hell I was going to do with it. I didn't plan how I was going to do it. I thought maybe I'd wait a few days, maybe try to talk it out like 2 adults who had just wandered off course. That idea lasted until Kate came home Thursday night wearing that same perfume, smiling like she hadn't just gutted me. She tossed her keys into the bowl by the door, kicked off her shoes, and walked into the kitchen like it was just another day. She opened the fridge and asked if I wanted something to eat. That's when I realized I couldn't fake it anymore. I couldn't sit across from her pretending I didn't know. I couldn't let her play the part of the tired wife, the one trying her best. I walked into the kitchen, holding the envelope I had kept hidden in the drawer of my desk. She turned and looked at me, confused at first, and then wary when she saw what I was holding. "What's that?" she asked, already reaching for defense without even knowing what was inside. "You tell me." I said, and dropped it on the kitchen counter. She didn't move to open it. I don't know what this is, Steve. Yes, you do. Open it. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up the envelope. She pulled out the pictures slowly, like maybe the pace would change what they were. She looked at the first one, then the second, then the third. Her expression didn't shift much, just a tightening around the mouth, a hardening in her eyes. When she finished, she set them down without a word. You're not going to deny it? I asked, my voice flat, barely controlled. No, she said, not looking at me. What's the point? That hit harder than any shouting would have. I wanted her to lie. I wanted her to panic, to try and spin some ridiculous story, to act like it wasn't her. But she just stood there, calm, as if she'd already played this scene in her head and accepted the outcome. How long? I asked. Does it matter? Yeah, it matters. Don't make me ask again. She sighed and leaned back against the counter. About 2 months. Maybe a little longer. I didn't keep a calendar. I stared at her, feeling the anger rise in my chest, but keeping it buried under years of self-control. Who is he? Just someone I met. You work with him? No. Friend of a friend? No. Then how? She crossed her arms. I met him at the gym. He was just someone to talk to at first. Things got out of hand. Out of hand. That's how you describe this. UF Kedim, Kate. She winced, but didn't argue. And you came home. Slept next to me. Let me make dinner. Took walks with me. Let me believe nothing was wrong. Her voice got sharper then. Don't act like you didn't notice we were falling apart. You've barely touched me in months. You don't talk. You sit around acting like you're some martyr for staying with me while I'm the one trying to keep this house from feeling like a funeral home. I laughed bitterly. You're blaming me? That's what you're going with. I'm saying it didn't come out of nowhere. You shut down. I tried to talk to you. You gave me silence. Because I knew something was wrong. I knew you were hiding something. Well, congratulations. You were right. Feel better now? I slammed my hand on the table, and Max jumped from the sound. Kate didn't flinch. Don't twist this. You cheated. You walked into another man's place and gave him everything that was supposed to be mine. That's rich coming from someone who checked out emotionally a year ago. Are you really saying I deserve this? She took a deep breath and softened, just a little. No, I'm not saying that. But I needed something you weren't giving me. You could have talked to me. I did. You didn't listen. So instead of fighting for what we had, you found someone else. I didn't plan for it to happen. That doesn't make it better. I know. The room went quiet. Just the hum of the fridge and the sound of Max shifting on his bed. Are you in love with him? I asked finally. She hesitated, and that pause told me more than her answer. No, it wasn't about that. Then what the hell was it about? She looked me in the eye then. It was about feeling like someone saw me again. Like I mattered. That hurt more than I expected. Because I thought I had always seen her. I thought I'd been there. Maybe not perfectly. Maybe not every moment. But I never stopped loving her. I never thought she'd be the one to walk away first. I want you out, I said. I don't care where you go. You're not sleeping in this house tonight. She didn't argue. She just nodded slowly and said, okay. She packed a small bag, not rushing, not crying, not making a scene. When she was done, she walked to the door, then turned back once. I'm sorry, Steve. I didn't answer. I didn't look at her. I waited until I heard the door close, and then I finally let my knees buckle and sat on the floor, staring at nothing, surrounded by silence that no longer felt like mine. The first 2 days after Kate left were nothing. I didn't eat much, didn't sleep, didn't turn on the TV, or even bother checking my phone unless it rang, which it rarely did. I sat in silence most of the time, Max curling up at my feet like he understood something had broken. On the 3rd day, I stopped waiting to feel better and started thinking about what came next. Not emotionally. That was a lost cause for now. But practically, logically, I knew she was staying at a friend's place, maybe her sister's, maybe that guy's apartment. Didn't matter. What mattered was how I was going to make her feel what she made me feel. This wasn't about anger anymore. It was about balance. I needed her to understand just how much she had taken from me and how much she was going to pay for that. I didn't scream at her. I didn't follow her. I didn't show up at that guy's place. I had no interest in begging or negotiating. I started where it mattered, at the bank. I froze the joint savings account. I moved my direct deposits to a new account in my name. I went through every bill and cut her access to anything I paid for, including the car insurance on the vehicle registered to me. She'd have to figure that out herself. I changed every password I ever shared with her. Netflix, Amazon, even the stupid shared calendar app we used for groceries and appointments. She wanted space. She could have all of it. I called my lawyer next. I didn't want to fight dirty, not yet, but I needed to understand my options. I explained everything. Married over a decade, no kids, joint assets, potential infidelity. He told me that in our state, cheating didn't affect much legally unless I had proof she used shared resources to support the affair. I told him I had a full file of evidence. He said that changed things. Give me copies, he said. Everything. Photos, dates, witness names, anything that proves her actions compromised the marital estate. I spent the rest of that day scanning everything Ernie had given me, organizing files, labeling dates, and drafting a timeline. I included screenshots of her texts, even pulled credit card charges from our last 3 bank statements. Lunches that lined up with the visits, rideshare charges, an Airbnb booking she claimed was for a team-building retreat that didn't exist. I created a picture, and it was ugly. The next day, I dropped everything at my lawyer's office. He flipped through the documents, raised his eyebrows, and said, "This isn't just solid, it's airtight. You want to hit her where it hurts. This is the way." Good, I told him. She deserves to lose something. We started drafting the initial petition for divorce. He recommended filing first to establish tone and control. We agreed. I asked him to serve the papers at her workplace. He looked up from his desk and said, "That'll sting." "You sure?" "She embarrassed me in silence," I said. "Let her feel some of it in public." While he handled the legal side, I turned to the social one. I wasn't about to blast her all over social media or anything childish like that, but I didn't feel the need to protect her image either. I called her parents. They had always liked me. Her dad used to say I was the calm she needed. When I told them why Kate had moved out, there was a long silence. Her mom asked if I was absolutely sure. I said yes, and I had proof. Her dad didn't say anything at all, just hung up. I didn't expect them to pick sides, but I wasn't going to let her pretend I had done something to deserve this. Next was her sister. Same reaction, shock, quiet, then anger. Not at me, at Kate. Apparently, this wasn't the first time she'd checked out in a relationship. I didn't ask for details. Didn't need them. I was just glad I wasn't the crazy one. Ernie called me a few days later. Said he'd seen Kate's car again outside that guy's place. "Want me to keep watching?" he asked. "No," I said. "It's done. I've got what I need." I didn't want to know more. I wasn't interested in playing detective anymore. That part was over. What mattered now was making sure she didn't walk away from this thinking there were no consequences. So I mailed a letter to her employer. Anonymous, no signature, no threats, just a printed stack of evidence showing how one of their employees had used company time and resources to maintain an affair. I didn't know if it would do anything, but it felt necessary. She had risked everything we had for something so reckless. Let her deal with the same risk now. By the end of the week, the papers had been delivered to her at work. My lawyer called me to say it had been signed and documented. She hadn't contested anything. No call, no text, not even a message from her lawyer. She was staying silent. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe out of fear. Maybe because she knew there was nothing left to say. That weekend, I started moving her stuff out. I packed every drawer, every closet, every box of hers into plastic bins and stacked them in the garage. When I was done, I texted her one word, "Done." A few hours later, she replied, "I'll pick it up Monday." I didn't answer. She showed up Monday, just before sunset. I was in the garage already, leaning against the wall with a beer in hand, not because I was relaxing, but because I didn't want to be inside pacing around when I heard her pull in. She parked on the street, not in the driveway, which told me she wasn't planning to stay long. She stepped out of the car without looking at me, walked up the path, and opened the side door to the garage like she still lived there. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched her as she stood there, taking in the boxes lined up neatly along the wall. There was no yelling, no slamming, no begging. Just a long, uncomfortable silence that felt like the entire weight of what we were used to be pressing down on the air between us. She finally turned to me. "So this is it?" "Yeah, this is it." She looked tired. Not just in the physical sense, but in that way people look when they've been running from a mistake and finally run out of places to hide. Her hair was tied back, face bare, wearing jeans and a hoodie that used to be mine, though I didn't care enough to point it out. She looked around again and said, "You packed everything. You don't live here anymore, Kate." I know. She picked up one of the bins and set it near her trunk. I didn't help. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because this wasn't my mess to clean up anymore. She made a few trips in silence, and on the fourth trip, she stopped halfway between the garage and her car and just stood there. Do you hate me? She asked without turning around. No, but I don't love you anymore either. She turned then. That was fast. No, it wasn't. You just didn't notice. She walked back toward me and leaned against the opposite wall. For the first time since everything fell apart, she didn't look defensive or angry. She just looked like someone trying to figure out if she had anything left to say. I think I expected you to yell at me more, she said. I did that already, just not out loud. She looked down at the floor, nodding slowly. I didn't come here to fight. I just wanted to talk. Just once. Before it's all done. I didn't answer right away. I just took a sip of my beer and waited. She took a breath. I screwed up. I know that. And I'm not going to pretend I didn't make my choices. But I want you to understand something. I didn't do it to hurt you. You did it knowing it would hurt me. Yes, but that's different. No, it's not. She looked away for a moment, then back at me. I felt like I didn't matter anymore. You were there, but you weren't. You were present, but not really with me. It felt like I was married to a ghost. And your solution was to K someone else? That's not fair. No, Kate. That's exactly fair. I didn't stop talking because I hated you. I stopped because every time I tried, it felt like you were already somewhere else. I was trying to hold on without making it worse. You were out there trying to feel something. You want to talk about ghosts? You were halfway gone already. You just didn't have the guts to tell me. She crossed her arms, not in anger, but like she needed something to hold on to. I was scared. So was I. I didn't mean for it to be a betrayal. I didn't know how to fix what we had. You didn't try. That's what gets me. You didn't try. You didn't come to me and say, Steve, we're falling apart, and I need something to change. You decided to figure it out with some guy who didn't even know our anniversary. She didn't argue. She didn't defend him. That told me all I needed to know about what that relationship really meant to her. I miss who we were, she said after a while. We don't exist anymore. I know, she said, and her voice cracked a little. We stood in silence for a while. Max wandered out of the house and laid down at my feet. She glanced at him and smiled sadly. He still follows you around, huh? Yeah. He knows who sticks around. She nodded, then pushed herself off the wall. So this is it. No chance. Not even a maybe. There's nothing left to fix. She nodded again, slower this time. I'm going to move in with my sister. Just until I find something permanent. You don't owe me your plans anymore. I know, but I thought you'd want to know. I didn't answer that. She grabbed the last box and stood at the door for a moment. I hope you find someone better. I hope you figure out what the hell you actually want. She gave a weak smile, nodded, and walked to her car. I stayed in the garage until I heard the engine start and the tires roll away. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt empty in a way that didn't hurt anymore. The first morning after she left for good felt more like a reset than a relief. I didn't spring out of bed with newfound energy or walk around the house with some dramatic realization about freedom. I got up the same way I had for the last few weeks, slowly, quietly, with Max watching me from the foot of the bed. I made coffee, fed the dog, and stared out the kitchen window for about half an hour. But something was different. The air in the house wasn't heavy anymore. It was just quiet. No tension. No wondering if a fight was coming. No listening for her car to pull in. Just me and whatever came next. I didn't rush into anything. I didn't call anyone to vent or try to sign up for therapy or download a dating app. I just went about my day. Laundry, groceries, a walk with Max. I didn't avoid the places that reminded me of her, but I didn't linger on them either. Her shoes were gone. Her coat wasn't on the hook. Her name wasn't on the calendar anymore. I noticed all of it, but I didn't dwell. I didn't let myself sink into it. That part of my life was over, and it wasn't coming back, and no amount of pacing or overthinking was going to undo the way it ended. The divorce moved fast. We both had lawyers. Neither of us wanted a drawn-out mess. There wasn't much to fight over. The house went to me. She didn't want it. Said it had too many memories. I agreed. Not the kind she meant, but still. She got her car, a clean financial split, and I kept everything else. We didn't talk again during the process. Everything went through the lawyers, and I was fine with that. We had said everything that needed to be said. A few mutual friends reached out over time. Some wanted the full story. I gave them the short version. She cheated, I found out, We divorced. I didn't try to ruin her name or turn anyone against her. I didn't need to. The people who mattered already saw the truth without me needing to explain it. One of her closest friends texted me a month later and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know. You deserved better." I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because there was nothing left to add. Apologies don't fix broken trust. They just acknowledge it happened. The hardest part was the shift in habits. For over a decade, I had built a life around shared routines. Every Friday used to be takeout and a movie. Sunday mornings were for coffee and talking about the week. Tuesdays were her gym nights. I knew what time she'd walk through the door, what perfume she'd wear, what pajamas she'd put on before bed. Erasing those rhythms wasn't about deleting memories. It was about creating new ones that didn't include her. I stopped ordering from the same takeout place. I rearranged the furniture. I painted the guest room, not because it needed it, but because it used to be her office, and I wanted it to be something else. Something mine. People talk a lot about forgiveness, like it's this big spiritual victory you're supposed to chase. I don't know if I've forgiven her. I don't think about her that much anymore. That's the real end, I think. When you stop wondering where they are, what they're doing, or if they're happy. When you can go a whole day and realize you didn't think about them once. That's not forgiveness. That's just moving on. It's been about 6 months now. Life isn't perfect, but it's stable. I've picked up a few hobbies again. I cook more. I started going to a nearby community gym, not to meet anyone, but to feel like I was doing something for myself. I even went on a couple of dates. Nothing serious. Just dinner, drinks, a little conversation. It felt strange at first, but not in a bad way. More like something new I hadn't done in a while. Like relearning how to be alone without feeling lonely. I don't regret marrying her. That might sound strange, but I don't. We had good years. Real ones. We laughed a lot. We went through tough times together and made it out. But the person she became isn't someone I recognize, and maybe I changed too. Maybe we both just drifted without realizing how far we'd gone. It doesn't justify what she did, but it helps explain why I'm not angry anymore. What I've learned is that betrayal doesn't just break your heart. It breaks your routine, your expectations, your version of normal. But it doesn't break you unless you let it. And I didn't. I bent sure. I sat in silence. I broke down in private. But I never gave up on myself. I didn't let her mistake become my identity. This house is mine now, in every sense. Not just legally. Emotionally. I don't feel like I'm walking through someone else's memories anymore. I feel like I'm living my own life again, one that I get to shape. Maybe I'll meet someone else down the line. Maybe I won't. I'm not in a rush. I'm not looking to fill a hole. I'm just taking it day by day, one morning at a time, coffee in hand, dog at my side, and no lies hanging over my head. That's enough for now. And for the first time in a long time, I actually believe that.